Hey there. So, I was on the subway the other day, heading downtown, and I saw something that just stopped me cold. A kid, couldn't have been more than 10, sitting across from me, completely absorbed in a thick, dog-eared textbook. He was working through a math problem, his brow furrowed in concentration, while the train rattled and screeched around us. And I just thought, that's it, right? That focus, that chance. That's what it's all about. We build systems, schools, entire institutions, with the solemn promise to protect that focus, to nurture that chance. But what happens when the institution itself is a ghost? When the promise is just an echo in an empty room? Hey, welcome back. I'm Ibnul J. Farabi, and this is the Unraveling Thread. Today, we're pulling on a strand that leads us into a labyrinth of phantom students, forged signatures, and a breathtaking $300 million that simply vanished into thin air. This is episode 24. Ghost schools, the charter network bust out, and the $300 million disappearance. Let's start with a basic, powerful idea. Charter schools were born from a promise of innovation, of freedom from bureaucratic red tape, a chance to create bespoke educational models for communities that needed them most. The funding model is straightforward. Public money follows the student. For every enrolled child, the school receives a set amount from the state. It's a system built on trust and verification. You have to actually educate real, living, breathing children. But imagine if you could cut out the most expensive part of that equation, the actual educating. Imagine if you could just invent the children. That is the essence of the ghost school. Our story centers on a particular charter network. Let's call it Apex Collegiate, though the real names are buried in court documents. Apex started with genuine ambition, opening schools in several states, often in low-income neighborhoods. They posted promising test scores, had sleek websites, and presented themselves as the future of education. And the money flowed. For years, it flowed. Audits were passed. Inspections were, apparently, conducted. But a strange pattern emerged if you knew where to look. Former teachers began speaking to local reporters, whispering about classrooms that seemed suspiciously empty for the enrollment numbers being reported. About student rosters that included names of kids who had moved away years ago. The first cracks were small, like hairline fractures in a dam. The mechanism, once uncovered, was almost elegant in its fraud. This is what investigators now call a bust-out scheme. It's a term from the world of organized crime, where you take over a seemingly legitimate business, run up its credit based on its good name, loot it completely, and then abandon the hollow shell. Apex perfected the educational bust-out. They used sophisticated software to generate plausible student identities. They forged attendance records and teacher certifications. They created entire digital paper trails for children who didn't exist. In one particularly brazen case, a school reported a thriving student body in a building whose actual occupancy, according to utility records, was barely enough to run the lights and the principal's office. They were puppeteers, performing a play of learning for an audience of regulators who, for a long time, were watching from very, very far away. And here's where the thread unravels into the societal fabric. This wasn't just theft. It was a profound betrayal on two devastating levels. First, it stole directly from the public treasury. That $300 million was tax money. Your money, my money, meant for textbooks, for teachers' salaries, for science kits and after-school programs. It was siphoned off into shell companies, luxury real estate, and offshore accounts. But second, and more viciously, it stole from the very community it pretended to serve. Every dollar sent to a ghost student was a dollar not sent to a real, struggling school down the street. It drained resources from an already strained system. It exploited the hope of parents desperate for better options for their kids. It used the language of social justice as a cover for a massive, calculated heist. As an engineer, I'm fascinated by systems, their design, their failure points. And this scam was a masterclass in exploiting systemic gaps. The oversight of charter schools is often a patchwork of state boards, authorizers, and nonprofit boards, a structure that can sometimes lead to diffusion of responsibility. Apex operated across state lines, complicating jurisdiction. They relied on the inherent trust we want to place in educators. And they exploited a political landscape where criticizing any charter school can be wrongly framed as being against school choice itself. They turned ideological protection into a criminal shield. It's a reminder that no system, no matter how well-intentioned, is self-correcting. It requires vigilant, skeptical, and adequately resourced human eyes. When the bust-out finally collapsed, it wasn't because of a sudden audit. It was because of a whistleblower, a former accountant inside the network who couldn't reconcile the numbers on the screen with the empty hallway she walked. Her testimony, along with data analysis from a tenacious state investigator who cross-referenced enrollment lists with public health records, blew the whole scheme open. The lawsuits are ongoing. Some assets have been seized, but a huge portion of that $300 million is likely gone forever, a phantom loss to match the phantom students. Thinking about that kid on the subway, and about my own education back in Bangladesh and here in New York, the anger I feel isn't just about the money. It's about the cynicism. It treats a child's potential as a line item, a data point to be fabricated. It turns the sacred contract of education, a society investing in its own future, into a spreadsheet for looting. From my perspective as an entrepreneur, I believe in innovation, in building new models when the old ones are broken. But this story is the darkest possible perversion of that spirit. It's not innovation, it's infiltration. So what's the takeaway? It's not to condemn an entire idea because of its worst actors. School choice, like any tool, is only as good as the hands that wield it. The lesson is about the indispensable value of transparency and local, ground truth oversight. Funding must be tied to verification that involves more than just paper. It requires community eyes, parents, local journalists, real teachers in real classrooms. The unraveling of this thread shows us that the most important safeguards aren't just in legislation, but in the commitment to look beyond the report and into the classroom window. If you want to see the documents and follow the ongoing case, we've linked the primary sources in the show notes. This story is still unfolding. If today's episode resonated with you, if it made you think about where our collective trust is placed, please share it with one person. Start a conversation. That's how threads get followed and how systems get held accountable. I'm Abnul J. Farabi. Thank you for listening to The Unraveling Thread, a production of Light Knot Studios. You can find more of our work and support independent investigative storytelling at lightknotstudios.com. Until next time, take care.